everyone. Welcome to the Hands on CISO podcast. My name is Adi, and today we'll be talking to Dexter Blakely. Dexter's been in the security field for a decade and is currently the information security manager at GK Software. As a security professional on his way to becoming CISO, one of Dexter's interests is merging between business and security, which we'll dive deeper into in today's episode. Dexter, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you today?
Great, really good. I'm really interested in learning. How did you end up the job you're doing today? What was your journey in security like?
Yeah, so it's actually a very interesting journey. I started working IT operations, just on the bottom of the help desk, working my way up, and for quite a bit of that time on the help desk, as the company that I was working in started getting a security team and developing some security culture. It was very interesting because everybody hated the security team. They were the team that people went to for forgiveness instead of permission because they just always said no. If you asked them for something, they said no, we can't do that. And they were very straight-laced, and it just was not a good situation. And so as I was trying to dream up of, okay, what do I want to do with my IT career? Security was nowhere close to that, because I wanted to be able to build things and provide business enablement. I wanted to be able to build the thing that's supporting the company and helping them grow. And a lot of times security was getting in the way of that. And as I was working in that career path, I got going in networking and got some interest in the network security side of things. And by that time, we started getting some better people on the security team, some really cool engineers that were really doing some cool things within our network security with our firewalls that was actually doing more of enabling the good guys and making it harder for the bad guys, and had me a little bit piqued in interest. I couldn't get a network administration position internally or externally, and they had an analyst position pop up. And so I thought, well, maybe this could be a good stepping stone. I can earn some more money, get a step away from the help desk, and move along. And very interestingly, in that first year doing security full time, the whole team turned over. We had some security leadership that had changed a couple times, and people were jumping ship. A lot of the team as well didn't trust the executives and the way that the board was running the company, and so was just a big kind of mess of things. And so I went very quickly from being just this little analyst on the totem pole to engineer and then principal engineer, and helping rebuild the team as it was going. And finally, as we got stabilized, we got a new CISO, Mulata Copeland, and she was a huge mentor for me over the years, and we were able to work together in helping change the security culture a lot. To It really started a lot with our mission statement, that we were going to be the advocate for the business to help them to make the right decisions on how we can move forward properly. And because of the way that she was able to help instill the culture change, and the things that she did in her role, it really enlightened my eyes to how awesome that security can be for a company, and how awesome the role of a CISO is. And so because of that, that pushed me further on developing myself for leadership roles, learning more business acumen. Shortly after she had left the company, I started to get my MBA at Western Governors, and very excitedly, I finished that earlier this year. And I've been very happy to be kind of on this route of further developing myself as a security leader, and helping to have that balanced approach with security.
Wow, that's so interesting. How would you say you approach the culture change? Because that's something that I know is really difficult from companies when you go from a non security minded approach to suddenly you have to think about security.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is tailoring the conversations with different people, to make sure that they understand that you understand that their what their needs are. But like if if we just talk about vulnerabilities and threat actors and things out there, then we're just going to kind of get the eye rolls from the business. But if we're talking with the chief marketing officer, and we're helping them understand in terms that they're more familiar with, like conversion and fraud, and with the chief financial officer, talking with them in terms of revenue and return on investment, that jives a lot more with the goals that they have. So then they understand exactly where you sit in the driver's seat, that you're right next to them, helping navigate them as they're driving, and not just that little kid in the back seat that wants more M&Ms or can't open their juice box.
That's a very good analogy for security. Interesting. Hmm.
And really, I hadn't even thought of that before. That's a new one I need to make sure I remember for the future. It's fresh on my mind as we had just barely taken a family road trip last week.
Perfect. What does your day to day look like?
Um, and really, like the whole time that I've been in security, it's kind of been similar. Of there is no day to day. It's always going to be different, but I'm trying to, as I evolve in kind of security leadership, making sure that I'm putting in some of those building blocks each day, the kind of time boxing to make sure, okay, am I still making sure to do X amount of time for vulnerability management every day, X amount of time for compliance every day, to make sure those important things are taken care of, but having that mindset of, hey, things are going to come in and disrupt things, be okay with it. Have the tools necessary to kind of take note, to adjust things within the program plan, and roll with it. And I think that was one thing that kind of, as I learned the agile methodology a few years back, really jived with me, of have a plan but also be okay if those plans change, and have things in place so that things can change and you can make adjustments and continue moving along despite the changes.
Great. How do you keep updated in a field that's changing like so fast? There's a breach on the news, there's new technology coming out, AI, everything. Like, how do you have time to both actually do the job and stay updated and not go crazy?
Um, I'm still trying to figure that out myself. Like, I will be totally honest, sometimes I feel like I am constantly crazy with things because there is that influx. Um, but like a lot of that's kind of the way it is. Though I think kind of one of the easiest things to that is that kind of I have a good network of people that have embraced the crazy. Like, we all know that it's crazy, so we're there to help each other. I stay in contact with kind of that first security team that I was with. I'm still in contact with them. I'm still in contact with the security guys from my previous company, and just having that togetherness that we had, of knowing the things that each person cares about, we're able to keep an eye out for each other. And so then if somebody doesn't see something or only like glanced over it, we can kind of help be more squeaky wheels for each other. And so that's an important thing, is kind of staying friends with those people in the past, having a good support network. And um, whether it's supporting people directly by kind of sharing articles and things, or just supporting them in their crazy, of helping them kind of relieve craziness, or understand how can they vent or fix through the crazy. I don't have a perfect answer for working through the influx of data, but I'm very grateful for kind of that network that I have that's helping me through it.
Perfect. Do you feel like cybersecurity is a field where people are very well connected to each other, or is what you're describing pretty unique and not the norm?
No, I feel like a lot of the community, um, which they are pretty connected and they want to be connected, which is funny because I feel funny, at least in an ironic way, because a lot of the people that I interact with in the community are a lot more introverted, and so they're not as outgoing of a personality, but because of the struggles that we deal with, they want to keep those connections and be connected with people. So it may not be as extrovertedly through like calls and things, but they want to continue that conversation at the very least, like, over text through like Discord and Teams and things, to like have that connection, as we've seen. um, uh, More resources are better than one. If we look at kind of doing vulnerability scanning, if you've got just one vulnerability scanner for your whole network, it doesn't work so great. And so we want to be part of a huge cluster that is working off of each other and able to um, do exponentially greater things because we are fully connected.
Very good answer. So, in a slight change of direction, when you're doing security for a company, even if you're enabling, if you're even if you're thinking of enabling, at the end of the day, you have to say no sometimes. How do you navigate that without being like the bad cop? Or are you okay with that title sometimes?
Um, it depends a lot upon the situation. I like to make sure that like I try to avoid just saying no, because to me, like, it's okay to say no, but you need more after that. It has to be it's kind of a no but. No, you can't do this, but if we have some other controls in place, it could be a lot better. Or it just no, you can't do this, but we can work towards a way that we can just to it's really about making sure that the conversation continues, because if it's really something that somebody is interested in, uh, we should talk about it to make sure that we fully understand each other. And I think that's a lot of where like security misconceptions happen, is because there's not that full understanding between like that business unit and security on the initiatives and the challenges behind it, and making sure that we get fully down to what is the root of the problem, so that we can fully address it, and make sure that we're not overlooking it because of some other type of solution. And it really can get interesting with the different sections of industries, just the different struggles that we can be going through. But there's a lot of enablers that we can continue to figure out together if we continue those conversations and not just stick to a solid no, you can't.
Yeah, interesting. Have you ever, obviously no names or companies, but were you ever, did you ever see a breach happening because of some sort of miscommunication or someone making a mistake, like without intending to create a security issue?
Um, yes. Well, and I'll supplement it as well with I've seen security incidents happen from people that like consciously made a change that like they were trying to do implement a certain architecture because they consciously had um, we'll call it a marketing drive for it, but they didn't realize the other security implications behind it. And was very interesting to kind of be part of those dialogues as we kind of figured out, okay, what are the kind of deeper technical things that could be exploited from this. And that's one thing that like I loved so much. The engineer that was working for me at the time, he had a very strong pen testing background, and he was very technical and very able to see very deep down in the weeds what could be pulled from a certain network connection um, on this web application. And um, it was very useful to be able to then discuss with those other stakeholders of, hey, here's what's actually going on deeper in the scenes and what these threat actors could be trying to grab. Let's throw a couple other pieces into the architecture so then we can still continue to achieve the things that we are trying to, but not divulging the information that we don't want to. And really that further collaboration, because there was more to the equation that they couldn't see. A
Interesting.
lot like kind of the analogy of the four blind men that are describing an elephant. And there's so many of those situations with every business that we all need to make sure that we have that collaboration so that everybody's getting the full picture of the elephant.
Perfect. In your team right now, are there a few people or is it just you managing security?
Yeah, a little bit of both. So right now I work for GK Software. I work for the Americas division. And in the Americas division, I am the information security manager, and I report to the CIO. I don't necessarily have kind of a formal team under me, um, but there's other security teams from the global headquarters for doing it full time. And to me, I see everybody else in the Americas division and even the global side, they're all part of our team. And I think that's an important thing that I've loved with security culture, like in general with companies that has been developing, is helping everybody understand that they have a part in security and that we can all work together to make sure that things are running well, whether it's by just reporting a phish email. We're helping to make sure that we're running better, like patch and development processes, so that we're not just constantly running on antiquated software, but we're actually looking at a more holistic life cycle for things. So then, as they're keeping things more up to date, they're directly helping me um, to avoid any vulnerabilities or issues that we may come up into in the future.
Interesting. Have you ever been in a situation where things were sort of on fire and you had to like act in that moment and fix the issue?
Yeah, it definitely, and it's very interesting. Um, I I very muchly appreciate the work that ER doctors do. My father-in-law was one of them for many years because while I may figuratively have been in situations where something is bleeding and I can't tell where it's bleeding from, I don't have the blood literally gushing at me to figure it out. And so I I applaud those guys, but it's a lot kind of allegorically very similar. Of sometimes you don't know what's bleeding and why it's bleeding, and it can be very difficult to think about why it's bleeding when you're in the process of stopping the bleeding, but it's still something that is important to have at least in the back of your mind because there's times that you may be cutting off the wrong things um, and not putting the right emphasis into place later because you don't understand particularly like just kind of for more context, like in the situation of a data security incident. Let's say there's a lot of bad traffic coming in. Um, we want to block that bad traffic, but if it's not very readily apparent of okay, what are they targeting? That's important to make sure that we're kind of thinking out about as well. So then we can make sure that our efforts can be more strategic and surgical. We're not um, just putting the oh, I'm drawing a blank on the medical device for it. We're not just putting the tourniquet over the whole leg when we can just sew up a cut on the foot and be okay.
That's it's a good analogy. Yeah, nice.
Well, and that's something that I've seen too is just kind of over time. There's so many scenarios that you're just going to be so frustrated with, and just making sure that you can open up to having some time for laughter and things, making up funny analogies for things. I applaud one of my previous coworkers, Brad Bennett. Some of the analogies he could come up with were pretty fire, and it was something that helped us get through it a lot. Just kind of in that piece of connecting with each other and helping things understand.
Interesting. What are the things that tend to be most frustrating about cybersecurity?
Um, I think one of the biggest to me is internal threats. A lot because like I want to be trusting of people, especially like the people inside of my country or my company. I want to trust them, and so things like a DLP or other controls, I I can struggle with sometimes because I want to inherently trust people. I see there is a high importance for DLP controls and for kind of those least privilege things, especially in the case of somebody's account getting compromised, and so it's I can still trust that internal person, but because their account has been controlled properly, we're properly controlling the impact of things. But that was something I dealt with earlier in my security career was some new DLP controls that we were putting into place that um, it it felt too much like I was being the NSA and snooping on people internally, and I just wanted to protect the company from kind of the threats on the outside, and I didn't like doing as much of that investigation. Um, that's one of the bigger pieces to me that I don't like about kind of security is having to kind of keep my eyes on everybody else internally. Um, otherwise, um, yeah, I can't think of kind of other um, situations that I don't like about security that kind of doesn't reflect in other things.
Interesting. What is one thing about security that you think most people from the outside don't really understand?
Well, I laugh because this is something that's kind of what's just coming to mind is something I've joked about with a lot of coworkers is kind of the thought of how do you describe a job badly? And so as I was talking with a CISO, but before it was Mulata and Brad actually, as we were creating slides for a security presentation, and I brought up how do you describe your job as a CISO very badly? Of well, I make slides all day. And so it just kind of made me laugh as you were asking that question. I was thinking about, well, I look at spreadsheets half the day and just kind of like, and so the thing that just immediately comes to mind that people may not realize about security is it's not all like the matrix and technical. A lot of it too is just very more simple things like just looking at spreadsheets, just organizing things. Like I talk with my wife about my job or other jobs in IT in general, and she says I could never do some of the stuff that you're doing, and especially as kind of we've talked with our kids being in school full time now, and her thinking about like going back into the workforce. I tell her you could do a lot of this stuff because a lot of it is just being organized with things, sorting out things, finding the right priorities, and cracking the whip at things. I tell her that she would be a great project manager. You should have seen the way that we moved our house, moving from Salt Lake to rural Utah. She had different colors of duct tape that we will put swatches on every single box. She had an inventory of where all the boxes would be and things. And I keep telling her like that translates directly over into project management. She could do great because it's really not. Some of the things aren't that technical. Like you can jump right
That's
in
amazing.
and organize things into the right priorities and poke the right people and things can be moving along very quickly without much technical knowledge. And then as you work through it, you gain technical knowledge very quickly, so long as you keep your mind open and constantly learn. Um, and that's something that I have been pushing my kids as they're in first and third grade is um, read quite a bit. Like make sure you're a good reader and can understand how you learn very well. Because if you have those things that mentality of constantly learning, then you're going to do immensely well in security and other IT functions and in life in general. I joked around with people that just as I started IT of in help desk even, They were like, how do you know all this stuff? I was like, well, half of it's Google. Like I just research stuff and I play with things and I get you just get to know it and like ask other people, oh, how did you fix this issue? And so um granted, I do have to divulge the other half of it is black magic sometimes. There is sometimes my wife has an issue on her phone or her laptop and she hands it to me and it just magically starts working. Unfortunately, I don't see as much of that black magic in security, but yeah, a lot of security and IT things can just come down to very, very simple things.
That's so funny. What do you think? What would you say to someone who wants to get into security or wants to advance in security, but is maybe uncertain or maybe not sure what they should do?
Yeah, I kind of get this a lot from different areas, and so one of the pieces that I um, point them to very quickly is just YouTube. YouTube is a wealth of knowledge right now, and has exploded over the past 10, 15 years that I've been working in IT and security. And like I got to give a shout out to Professor Messer, Network Chuck, David Bombal. They've got some really great channels that you can learn a lot, and um, you don't have to pay for like big subscriptions, big like textbooks and things. There's still a lot that you can gain there to at least get that understanding of things of, and that's kind of that network. Next thing is what is starting to interest you and why does it interest you, and then kind of furthering from there. So like somebody that's interested in pen testing, um, understanding why that interested them, of well, is that interesting to them just because they want to have that title of being a hacker, and they've seen the hackers movie, and people in there, they want to be that guy that's got the 20 different computers and they can say I'm hacking into the firewall and 5 seconds later I'm in. Or do they want to do it so that they can help a company understand how they can improve things better? And then kind of as they understand kind of the uh, and look into pen testing more and things, there it's important to recognize too of okay, the more the better route is kind of is with that mentality of you're helping the company well, and because you're helping that company, it's not super glamorous 100% of the time. You're going to have to be spending a lot of time in a spreadsheet and in a Word document trying to describe all of the things. You may only be spending 5% of your time actually trying an exploit, and then the other another 60% of the time just documenting about it, and the other 35% of the time researching how to do more things. And so um, really understanding then of okay, because this isn't so glamorous, is this still something you want to do, and kind of continue forward. If it's not, that's okay. It's fine if that's great to find the things that you don't like, so then you can kind of continue onward, and you could still play in some of those things. I have a lot of fun with my old coworkers doing capture the flag events that have some pieces of pen testing that then I don't have to write the documentation afterwards, but I can still have fun in it. Keep the fun things fun and look for kind of those areas that can continue my love doing as a career basis and expanding on those. And for me, that was security leadership and really helping companies develop that higher strategy and moving forward.
Amazing. What do you see as one of the biggest problems in cybersecurity today?
Oh, that's difficult to kind of see like the very biggest, because there's a lot of things kind of running rampant with in terms of like old software, technical debt, um, being able to just being able to trust other people, like and kind of with identities and spoofing and um, even some of the crazy way that people are able to bypass MFA through different exploits. Um, I think it's very difficult to kind of really nail like what's the kind of most difficult thing. Um, I think the closest that I can get is kind of the understanding and capabilities that companies have to have kind of a total cost of ownership. Um, because there's sometimes that companies understand what total cost of ownership is. They understand which updates that they need to do, but they don't have the resources, and other constraints get thrown into place. They need to scale up way faster than their resources allow, and makes it very difficult for them. And then what can be very difficult even is those that don't even understand the total cost of ownership and don't even give their internal resources, that like their security personnel, the time to help them try and understand and try to develop a strategy. That's an interesting thing that I've seen is companies that they may have a CISO because they're a public company and they're required to, but they just kind of shove them off into a closet and they don't really even try to include them with understanding the business and the total cost of ownership that they need to have, and having a good strategy.
Interesting. What do you think is something that maybe maybe security professionals and CISOs tend to overlook in their everyday?
I think for me sometimes, like I'll even kind of take this as a place where I don't do as good sometimes with just understanding the efforts that other people are actually doing and being able to recognize them. That was something that I I kind of had a rough learning experience from one of my engineers, but I appreciate it so much because it helped me to kind of solidify it more of like I need to watch out for those times. I had an engineer that he was spending a lot of time with the sysadmin team and trying to help them get this migration taken care of and make sure that it's done in a secure fashion, and and also completing the like operational needs that the business had. And so as I was looking from my purview, I only could see kind of what were the security checkpoints that were getting done, and I was looking at the operational ones at all, but kind of I was getting very annoyed with this engineer because the security checkpoints weren't getting done, and I could see that the project's moving along, but his piece wasn't as much. And I hadn't been talking with him. I hadn't been asking the important questions myself to understand what he was actually contributing so that I could give him proper recognition for kind of the business things that was going on, and to understand how pressured he was to help with those other areas that had I known beforehand, I could have talked with other people in leadership um, to move resources around so that we were being fully efficient in all the ways that we could be. And so it helped me understand that there's a lot of questions that I need to make sure that I'm asking from the people under me, not just the people laterally or above me, to make sure that we're working properly. And there's so many times that we are going to run into those assumptions, and sometimes they work out great. Sometimes we run into the classic assume analogy that I won't detail out, but we'll just kind of give that wink to the listeners of what an assume can turn into. That I even had one just this morning that just kind of blew into my face. A number of assumptions that I had that were completely inaccurate, and thankfully there wasn't a big impact from this. But it's important that anytime there's any impact from an assumption or things, we take that note of, okay, we made a mistake. Let's make sure that we learn from things, and it's very important everywhere just to learn from each other and learn from our own mistakes and continue moving onward. And that's I'm excited to kind of do that in this scenario, um, and just continue learning and growing.
Amazing. Okay, so I have two final questions. One, what do you think is the difference between the way cybersecurity is looked at and dealt with today and, let's say, 5 years ago? And after you answer this one, I'll ask the second one.
Okay. Um, I think, and I appreciate that you said 5 years ago, partially because there was a whole pandemic in between this. And so it's very interesting because like there's a huge difference there that I can talk about now because
Interesting.
it changed.
What did the pandemic specifically change?
Well, like cybersecurity um, is something that it evolves with the nature of just how we do business with things, and so it like it flows just as much as things change. So as people went to working from home more with a pandemic, we had to change things with cybersecurity, with different compliance things, and kind of the way that we do things. It's definitely made data more available in more places. We're not tying as much to the office. Some companies are kind of reverting back that way to kind of get back into the office and kind of forming that way. But we've seen a lot that are still kind of embracing that, and thankfully there's new companies and things, features that are developing to help make sure that we can embrace that remote lifestyle and keep it secure at the same time. Um, and um, a lot with the sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the other facet that I was going to. Oh, compliance side. There is a lot that's pushing more companies to at least have a very basic framework of, okay, what is your security, and like let's continue raising the bar. I um have a love-hate relationship with the transition from PCI version 3 to version 4 because I love it exponentially because it's going to force companies to actually reduce the scope of their where they keep credit card information, where they keep the sensitive data. We've needed this for so long. I hate it because I hate the companies have kept that waste for so long. So it's going to be so um, difficult for them to kind of embrace that change and be able to move onwards. I kind of wish that like it wasn't as kind of drastic of a change that the kind of PCI Council had went through, that they were able to kind of push more through. But it's something that we really need for any types of sensitive data. People need to have a lot more awareness of where it sits and how it's protected, and so that we can really have that, like I said earlier, that proper ownership of what we're doing.
Amazing. So before I ask my last question, that is sort of the other way, the other side of this question, I want to say thank you so much for your time. And I think this has been super valuable for anyone who's in security. Like your knowledge is really like, I forgot the word, but like very broad. Like you have a lot of different things that both on the actual security, but also on team and team building and management. And I think it's really cool. And thank you for joining us. Um, I'll ask my final
Thank you for
question.
having me.
Of course. What do you think cybersecurity is going to look like 5 years from now?
Um, it's interesting. I think a lot about just the future when especially further out from 5 years most of the time, because I think about like what's the future going to be like for my kids. And um I think it ties in a lot with kind of what I talked about with kind of the change of things. Is like the hopes that I have is that um, companies are going to be able to have a better hold onto kind of their sensitive data, have better resources to help them with keeping that secure. Um, I hope that we can see a lot less of the huge breaches going on with things. I hope that we can get the right resources in the right places, the right understanding with things. It's very daunting to me though to know if that's going to happen well. I see so many areas with the economy where there's so many budget cuts, people getting laid off, and a very difficult job market that I have some hope for the future, but it's very concerning that um, we really need to make sure that we're working together to try and solve and make sure that the next 5 years has positive growth, and we're not just looking at even a larger pile of technical debt as we arrive 5 years from now.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.